Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Elliot and welcome to This and That Reviews, where this movie is the exact reason why I started this channel. This is a channel where I talk about movies by comparing them to other movies that I either like or dislike. And I kind of do spoilers, but in a weird, if you know, you know kind of format. This is 28 years later, and I won't go into, like, I suppose, major spoilers, but I feel like this is a movie that you need to know what you're going into in order to appreciate it. Without giving spoilers necessarily, you do need to know what kind of movie this is. Because if you saw the trailer, you probably have no idea what this movie is. Because the movie that the trailer promised you is the first 20 minutes of this movie. I think 3C Films said it, that it's like the first 20 minutes of this movie, and that's about right. Like, you know where that version of the trailer and your mind, like, of what this movie is gonna be, that is what this movie is. I think that if you go into this movie with the mindset that this is 28 weeks later, don't watch 28 weeks later, and go into this movie expecting the same thing. It's not the same thing. The first 20 minutes is the same thing, and then it becomes something else. And whether or not you like this movie is going to be dependent on whether or not you like the rest of the 80% of this movie. I have not seen 28 Days Later for a very long time. And I have not seen 28 Weeks Later for a very long time. And I thought to myself to watch the two before this one, to prep myself for this one. But then I thought about 28 Days Later, the movie, and then 28 Weeks Later, the movie, and those came out at a reasonable time in between. And this one is coming out 28 years later. You know, wouldn't that have been funny if it was actually 28 years later from like the first movie? It might be. That might be their brilliant marketing. But I thought about the two, and if you watch 28 Days Later and then you watch 28 Weeks Later, it's a completely different movie. It's a completely different cast. It's a completely different location. It might as well just be a completely different movie. And watching the trailer for this one, I was like, this is just gonna be a completely different movie, and it is. If you wanna watch this as a standalone movie about zombies, or about a rage-infected humans, right? And you just wanna watch a world, a zombie world, right, that exists. I think that you can just watch this movie by itself and it's fine. In the same way that if you wanted to watch 28 Weeks Later, you don't need to watch 28 Days Later. And so that's point number one. Point number two is this is not the trailers. The first 20 minutes is the trailers, and you have no idea where this movie is going. And that's part of my problem. That's part of my problem with this movie. It's the idea that I did not know where this is going. Now, like I said, welcome to This and That Reviews. I didn't know where the movie Strange Darlings. Strange Darlings is one of the best movies that I've ever seen. It is definitely top 10 movies, most surprising movies, best movies I've ever seen. And the brilliance of that movie is that you don't know where it's going. The movie drops you in, and it says it's a story in 5 parts. Here's chapter 3, and it starts. And you're like, what? We're starting in the middle? This is a crazy movie. Like, what even is this, right? But the brilliance of that movie is not knowing anything about that movie. Not knowing the trailer, not knowing where any of it's going, so that the movie can play out and it's intriguing the whole way, and then it ends and it feels fulfilling. That, you know, like, you can piece it together and it's fine, but having that experience of not knowing where it's going and then it ending where it ends is so fun, right? Now, my counterpoint to that is The Monkey. If you saw Oz Perkins' The Monkey, I didn't like that movie because I didn't know where it was going. It was just a series of events. And then, you know, it felt like I looked up and then we were just in what was very obviously the end goal of the movie, or the end part, the third act of the movie, and it just ends. And I was just like, oh, I guess that's it. I don't know how we got here, but I guess that's it. That's the end of the movie. And that's how I felt with this one. Because I didn't know where the movie was going, and because it keeps restarting, you will not be able to predict where this movie is going, because what happens is it's very episodic. If you wanted to break this down, if you told me that they originally wanted to put this onto HBO Max or Paramount Plus or whatever, 28 years later, whatever the studio is, if you told me that they originally did this as a 4-part series, but then they were like, oh no, it's really good, we should make this a movie, I'd believe you. Because this is a very episodic movie. There are definitive, like, this is the end of this thing, now we're doing something else. Oh, this is the end of this thing, now we're doing something else. And like, to compare it to one more movie on the same line, like just so that you understand how this feels. There was a movie a little while ago that was all done in one shot, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was a number, and it was like 1942 or 1954. And it was an army movie where it was all done in one shot, right? It was supposed to look like it was all done in one shot. And the goal of the main character is he needs to get a letter to his brother all the way over there. That's his goal. That's what the movie starts with. He's like, they're going to get ambushed if I don't give my brother this letter. Now, with that, you know the end goal. You know where this movie is going to go. This movie is going to go where he delivers the letter to his brother. That is the end goal, right? You don't know what's going to happen in between. And if you saw the trailer for that movie, you might think that it was a Sam and Frodo movie, because he has a best friend that he starts this journey with, and they're Sam and Frodo. And then Sam dies. And you're like, wait, what? And then the movie continues, and he meets more people, and then he leaves those people, and then he meets more people, and then those people die, and then he meets more people, right? And it's very like episodic, but at the same time, you know where this is going. You know the end goal. This movie does that episodic nature of like, this is where this portion of the movie ends and it becomes something else. This is where this portion of the movie ends and it becomes something else. This is where this portion of the movie ends and it becomes something else. But I didn't know what the end goal was. There is no end goal. Because the end goal just keeps changing throughout the course of the movie. And I felt very dissatisfied with where it ends, because this is also part of a trilogy. They've already started filming 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which I believe that's what it's called, the second part of this 3-part 28 years later trilogy, that a presumed 28 years later trilogy. And so not only do you not know where this is going to end, it doesn't really end even when it ends. There's very obviously like, oh, here's it to be continued. I mean, it was like the equivalence of like a post-credit scene in a Marvel movie. You're like, oh, where's this gonna go? So not only do you not know where the end point is and it just ends after enough episodes have occurred, but then even when it does end, it still doesn't end because they're setting up the sequel. Now, with all of that being said, I think this is a good movie. I do like it. I do like the authorship of this movie. The editing is insane. The choppy editing is insane. It like the first 20 minutes of this movie, the editing, the sound design, the music, the background, or I'm sorry, not the background, the flashbacks, it's very, very unique. Like you will watch this and you'll be like, I have never seen editing like this in most movies. This is a movie that's not trying to be like every Hollywood movie. Now, I don't know if I got used to it or if they just stopped doing it as frantically as they were in the first 20 minutes of this movie, but after that, it felt like I never felt that again. I never felt that high that I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, this is crazy editing. This is so wacky and ridiculous. And it's so insane, right? Because then it felt like I invested myself into the world and now I get it. And I'm like, okay, now this is just all normal, right? And I don't know if it's just that they stopped doing it or if I got used to it. But it's not as noticeable after that first part of the movie. And then it becomes a normally shot movie, like a movie that's shot normally. But for that beginning part of the movie, I really liked it. And maybe it's possible that maybe they stopped because they were like, you know what, if we keep this frenetic pace up, if we keep doing what we're doing right here, it's gonna get tiring after a while, so we're gonna back off from it. But I did think that it was very interesting how that all played out. The main character of this movie is the little kid. It's unquestionably the little kid, and he's very good. And to talk about any other character would just be spoilers, so I won't. Other than to say that the main little kid is really, really good. He is carrying this entire movie because he is the main character throughout the whole movie. I'm very excited to see where this goes. I think that there are going to be two camps of people, and wherever you fall in either liking or disliking this movie, I can compare it to two other movies. When I saw Nosferatu, I didn't like it. I got out of that theater and I actively disliked it. I understood what they were going for. I understood what they were trying to do. And for me, like, my sensibilities of vampire movies is I like my vampire Dracula. Is Sinners also a vampire movie? Yeah, I guess they are too. They are both vampire movies. I don't know why I never connected that. But yeah, I guess they are. Yeah, I guess they are both vampire movies. Dracula being a vampire, or Nosferatu being a vampire. He's like the lead vampire. Like, he's like he's like the top of the vampires. But then you have like minion vampires, like in Sinners and Blade, which is what I was going to compare it to. I don't think I ever like realized that they're two very different vampire movies, but they are technically both vampire movies. My comparison is going to sound so bad now, because for the life of me, the way that I have been comparing Nosferatu is I dislike old school Dracula movies. I'm more of like a Blade, Twilight, like, I like my vampire movies to be fun. Dracula Dead and Loving It is another example. I think Nosferatu is just a bad version of Dracula Dead and Loving It by Mel Brooks. It's like the same movie, but it's just like an uninteresting, boring version of it. And that was my dislike towards Nosferatu. But I could see that a lot of people would like it for the moody atmosphere, the slow pace, the like Dracula is scary kind of deal, right? And there was a part of me that just I didn't connect with it. But then when I watched Sinners, which apparently is a vampire movie because that is also a vampire movie, but it's a very different vampire. It has a very different. It's a different kind of vampire movie. I think the reason why I like Sinners so much is that it just happens to be a vampire movie. It is not inherently a vampire movie. And if you didn't know that it was a vampire movie because of the marketing, it's still an interesting movie because you care about the characters. I didn't care about the characters in Nosferatu, and I think that was my problem with it. But I cared about the characters in Sinners, and I didn't care that it just happened to also be a vampire movie. When I went to Nosferatu, I wanted to see a Nosferatu Dracula vampire movie, and what I got was a very slow burn, like wacky character, like just like insane period piece. I didn't understand it. I didn't gel with it. I didn't gel with like what they were selling. If you go to 28 weeks later, 28 years later, if you go to 28 years later with the expectation that this is going to be a action-packed 28 weeks later, it's not that. It is more of a 28 days later, a slow burn, thought-provoking kind of movie where it's not trying to really be about zombies. It's about a community. It's about a young boy who has to grow up in a world that is dangerous, and how he decides to grow up in this world, and like how fast he needs to grow up. I feel like this is the movie, and this feels reductive. I'll say this first. It feels reductive, but it feels like the closest we're ever gonna get to a Walking Dead movie. I saw Walking Dead all the way through. I've seen a couple of the spinoffs, first seasons of most of the spinoffs. I haven't caught up to it because I'd have to subscribe to the service. But this feels like when Judith became old, or when Judith became a character, and you get to see her grow up in this world where all she has ever known is zombies. Where she never knew a previous world. She doesn't know how to be a kid. And so she just understands how serious everything is. And she's trying to be a kid. And this kid in this movie is trying to be a kid. But at the same time, he can't really be a kid because there's so many grown-up things happening. And I feel like that's what this movie is. It's about a kid growing up and existing in a world that is dangerous and needing to learn lessons that no kid should ever learn or ever need to learn. And having to be okay with things that no kid should ever have to be okay with. I feel like the strength of this movie is the idea that it's not just a 28 weeks later. It's not just an action-packed zombie gross movie. It's the fact that it has the ability to be more. And whether or not you want your zombie movie to be more than just mindless entertainment, if you want it to be more than just action, Resident Evil action-packed zombie action, right? If you want your movie to be more, then you will like this. And if you just want the zombie action, if you just want the Resident Evil action, then you might not like this movie. I think one of the best zombie movies ever is Train to Busan, because it's a movie that has the ability to be more. It has wacky zombie action, probably some of the best zombie action. But at its core, as a story, it's about a father and a daughter, right? Is that the kid? The kid's a daughter? Is the kid a son? I can't remember. But it's about that relationship. And it's about like whether or not they can get to the end of the destination on this train. And I feel like because it has that heart, that's what elevates it. And I feel like that is what will get you through this movie. It's going on this journey with this little kid and seeing all the things that he has to go through, and as long as you're not expecting either an ending, because there are going to be 2 more movies theoretically. If you're not expecting an ending, and you're not expecting 28 weeks later levels of action, I think you'll like this movie. I think it's good. I think it's good in the same way that I think Sinners is good. But it could easily be a Nosferatu to you. Or maybe you like both of those movies, and then you'll love this one. Or maybe you hated both of those movies, but somehow you'll like this one. I don't know. That's what this and that reviews is. I'll catch you guys next review.